Hi, I'm Jenny Taylor Martin, a director here at Edgar Cayce's A.R.E. Today we're speaking with Josie Varga, author of Visits from Heaven. Hi Josie, it's nice to have you with us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
I understand your book was inspired by your very own visit from heaven. Can you tell us about that?
I had a first book that came out called Footprints in the Sand. And the back of the book contains an epilogue written by my husband's friend Rich, who died in the World Trade Center attacks of 9/11. It is an inspiring epilogue about the death of his father that he wrote 2 years prior to his death. And it was really fitting with what I was trying to say in the book. So I included it in the book. And shortly before the book came out, I had an incredible, lucid, vivid dream. Nothing like this had ever happened to me before. I saw myself literally going down a long hallway, felt my body moving. I didn't realize it at the time, but afterwards I realized that I actually had an out-of-body experience. So I'm going down this long hallway, and I come to this door. I go into this room, and there's windows and desks everywhere. And I look around, and I see Rich, my husband's friend now. Never met him in person when he was on this earth. I only saw pictures of him. I spoke to him twice on the phone. That was it. So he looks at me and he says, "Josie, thank you for mentioning me in your book." And I don't know why, but I looked at him and I said, "Rich, you have to prove to me that this is really you." Why I said that, I don't know. And mind you, this is the first time this ever happened. So he picks up a phone off of a desk. He opens it up, and on the phone is a picture of him, his wife, and his son. And he looks at me, he shows me the picture, and he says, "Boston is okay." Didn't know what Boston is okay meant, but I did know intuitively, instantly, that this was a message that I needed to get to his wife. And the next thing I know, I found myself kind of going through a window, and I found myself on the street. I look out, and I see a pickup truck. And in the bed of the pickup truck is Rich standing behind his wife and son. And he kind of looks at me, he's standing like this, he looks at me and he says, "Okay, give her the message," and sort of pushes me forward. And when he pushed me forward, I woke up in a sitting position, panting and out of breath. I felt like something hit me in my chest. So I didn't know what happened. I was afraid, and I called my husband. I told him what happened, and I said, "I know this sounds crazy, but you have to call Rich's wife. You have to tell her Boston is okay." And he looked at me and he said, "Are you crazy? You want me to call Rich's wife, who just lost her husband, and tell her Boston is okay?" Well, to make a long story short, we agreed to send an email to Rich's sister-in-law and telling her what happened. And if she felt appropriate, she would tell her sister, okay? So a short while later, we did that. A short while later, we got an email on my husband's BlackBerry, and we were on vacation. He was looking at his BlackBerry, he's reading it. Basically, she had a brother in Boston. She was considering selling her house and moving to Boston, which is wife.
Wow.
But she felt guilty because she had purchased a house right before he died. Now, I didn't know any of this. Didn't know she had a brother in Boston, never met her, never met anyone. So he reads it, right? And at first, we're both not quite getting it. And then he reads it again, and we both go, because I realized, oh my God, what does this mean? Well, this means that it's possible for the living to communicate with the dead. And at first I tried to forget about the experience. I thought, well, if I tell people, they're going to think I'm crazy. But it's not something that you can forget about. I could not forget about it. And that's why I decided I needed to, write the book.
I imagine that experience changed your beliefs about life after death.
It didn't. It changed my belief because I no longer believe. I know. There's a big difference between a belief and a knowing. A belief is subject to change. When you have a knowing, it changes who you are as a person. It's almost like an epiphany. You can't go back to who you were, even if you tried. So I'm not the same person I was prior to having my visit from heaven. I'm a totally different person.
What made you decide to write this book?
I was one of the lucky ones, because not every after-death communication comes with a validation. And I did get a validation, and I feel very fortunate about that. So I wanted to write a book so that people would understand that life never ends and love never dies. You know, I think that that's very important. I wanted to share this experience with people. Basically, I wanted to help the people who have lost loved ones, and I felt that was very important.
Your book is a compilation of true stories. Out of all of those stories, which one touched you the most?
It's a story called Misty Angel, and her mom, I think she was 15, she passed away, and on the anniversary of her death, they were getting together to have like a picnic in memory of her death. And her mom went out to the truck to get something out of the trunk. And as she turned around to walk back across the street, she actually first heard her daughter's voice, okay? She heard her daughter's voice, and right after she heard her daughter's voice, she literally felt her daughter standing in front of her, okay? So she's in a state of shock, not exactly knowing what's going on here, and all of a sudden she sees this car come careening around the corner right at her, head on. And out of the blue, another car comes into the picture and kind of side swaps the other one, diverts it out of the way, and the first car goes over an embankment and flips over. The second car disappears, okay? She's standing there, and all of a sudden, she's watching this whole thing, and the pressure releases, okay? She no longer feels her daughter, and she walks over to this car that, you know, flipped over, and her daughter's friends, everybody goes running over there, and it's a drunk driver. And he gets out of the car, and he's like, "Ma'am." She said, "Yes." He says, "Where's your daughter?" Well, actually, he didn't say daughter. He said, "Where's the girl that was standing in front of you?" Okay? Wow. And ironically, the guy was drunk, flips over, comes out of the car without a scratch, you know, gets out of the car and says to her, you know, where's the girl that was standing in front of you? And she said, "What?" And he said, the girl that was standing in front of you, where is she?" And she said, "You know what, Josie, I was so shocked by what he said, I couldn't answer him. She said, "I just looked at him, turned around, walked back across the street, and cried." So that one means a lot to me because her mom actually emailed me last week, and she said, "You know what, Josie, I have no doubt that Angel was whispering in your ear the entire time you were writing that account." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because it's so perfectly written, and it's written exactly the way Angel would have written it." She said, "To the fact that you named it Misty Angel," she goes, "that is something she would have done." She said, "So I have no doubt that, you know, she was whispering in your ear at the time." And it's funny that you said that to me, because I've been to a lot of mediums since then. You know, there were mediums in the book, and so many of them have said to me, "Do you feel like there's somebody standing behind you sometimes when you write?" Oh, yes. I feel that presence all the time. You know, I'll be standing there typing, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I'll get a chill, and the temperature feels like it drops 10 degrees. And I'll turn around and look behind me, because I can literally feel somebody standing there. I don't know who it is, but I'm sure it's the contributor, you know, it's the story I'm writing about. It's the, so I believe her mom. I do think that maybe Misty was, in fact, whispering in my ear.
What do you hope readers will take away with them after reading your stories?
Well, I hope they realize that we are so much more than our physical bodies. You know, we don't realize that. Besides the fact that there is no death, we are so much more than our physical bodies. If we weren't, none of the stories in Visits from Heaven would be real. None of the stories in Visits from Heaven would be possible. As Edgar Cayce said, death in the physical is birth in the spiritual. Okay, and what he means is we are actually spiritual beings having a human experience, not the other way around. So I hope that, you know, people understand that there is no death, that they will see their loved ones again. And there's absolutely nothing final about death. We are who we are, and we always will be.
Visits from Heaven is published by Fourth Dimension Press, an imprint of A.R.E. Press, and is available at arecatalog.com.